Namaste, Duncan Sensei, RYT200, level 1, module 3, Mudra. Pre-recorded content, let's begin. Namaste, we'll begin with Maha Mudra Flow, which is the practical hand mudra warm-up routine. So we'll begin by opening the hands and by spreading the fingers and turning the hands forwards, forwards, back, back. Inhale, forwards, exhale, back. When you feel good and genki, you get warmed up, you're gonna hold one side. You're gonna bend the elbow with the shoulder over the wrist as much as you can. You're gonna let the shoulder blade drop into the rib and squeeze the inner core and flex up, extending the shoulder joint. Right? You're gonna relax. Your back and try the other side. Turn the other palm forward. Shift away from the stretch by moving forward. Bend the elbow slightly and let the shoulder blade come back, and then squeeze inside and let the spine flex, long shoulder joint. Shake the elbow, hyperextension. Keep the palm on the ground. Then relax your back, soften, and turn your palms forward, forward, back, back. And you have extreme option, which is to invert, to turn both hands back, bend both elbows, drop both shoulder blades back, and squeeze inner thigh, inner rib, and flex up, long shoulder, drop the head. Right? And then we move into backhand press from inverted palms. So now we're coming on the backs of the hands. You turn them in and out, although this turnout's a little advanced, so you might just want to start, especially teaching, demonstrating for teaching, just middle fingers pointed towards one another, okay? Then we'll just shift back away from the stretch this time, and then shift forward towards the deeper feeling, deeper release. This is joint. So inverted palm, backhand press was working the inner muscle line, right? Inverted palm, working the inner muscle line. Shifting back is deeper. The backhand press is shifting to the outer joint line of the wrists, and the gets deeper, moving forward. If you want to make a fist to intensify the stretch, keep your index extended to protect the inner nerve plexus, the nerve group in the inner wrist. My recommendation, not closing the index. That's primary power. Great. Then a subtle detail will be with the middle fingers pointed towards one another, almost touching, then pull the wrist apart from one another. Until all the fascia, skin, and muscle tissue stops, the bones stop. So pull as much as you can apart. As you continuously pull apart, feel the shoulder blades spread and drop, collar spread wide. And as you pull apart, try to hug your inner arms, elbows in as you pull apart, moving in opposing directions simultaneously. A little aware, attention, concentrate on that, pulling apart, breathing, hugging, and eventually squeeze inner thigh and flex, drop the tail, flex the spine, drop the head, and you're good. Drop the back, relax the back, and roll it out. A little wave goes a long ways. Release any residual toxins or tension in the nerves of the wrist and then grip the earth. Release, 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 and then grip. So when we spread the fingers out, then we grip the earth, and just before you leave the ground is when you stop, and that's when you can have your power. There's another way to access this technology, but for now we have to, first primary point of power, protection, is that the thumbs point towards one another in the center. So when we spread out and grip, it's like that, thumbs point to the middle. Then again, as usual, in this case, go soften back or come up, whatever's most comfortable. Hug the elbows in towards core. We'll drop the shoulder blades down and wide around the ribs, and of course, extra breath. Exhale, squeeze inner thigh. Flex spine long, shoulders strong, front ribs. And grip, grip, grip. The grip activates the thumb, activates the inner arm, activates the hug, which activates the ribs of the upper side body, which rotates the shoulder joint out, which drops the shoulder blade, which allows the extension of the shoulder joint and the wrapping of the shoulder blade around the ribs, stabilizing the upper pelvic plates, the upper shoulder plates, the upper body pelvis in a way, the pectoral girdle, and the shoulder structure that is comprised of the shoulder blades and the shoulder joints and the surrounding muscles of the upper side ribs, pectoral girdle, and the chest. Good job. This is upper core. All right. And a final flex, if you've got it in you, of course, always hug, drop, and squeeze inner thigh, drop tail, pull navel, flex spine, strong front side ribs, shoulders long, very strong, tiger body, tiger mudra, finger stance, you know, very strong, nice, and good job, and relax your back and take a break. The next mudra is butterfly mudra. So when you spread your fingers out like the wings of a butterfly, the thumbs will turn forwards, just like a double palm press or like a acrobatic type of advanced handstand. You can do it wide in downward dog. You can do it narrow with narrow feet. Also like a very inner strength hugging press to get that long side body and that strong inner body, that long side, that long outer mobilizer muscle, that strong inner stabilizer muscle that will relate the hug to the inner side body. Okay, and so once we have the thumbs forwards, I'm about to go in that river. Then you choose. You can start wide. I need to back this up a little bit. Back this up. Let's try that. That's better. Pardon me, Ferns. Okay, good. So once we spread out and have the thumbs forwards, it's so much inner palm. It's such a wonderful inner palm press. Some tractors working the rice fields. I hope you can hear me over that. And then there's a big hug, lots of weight on the base of the thumb, inner wrist, inner palm, inner heel of the palm of the hand. Very base, very nice. Highly recommended in single palm presses. Thumb forward all the time. Thumb forward all the time. Every time you get a Scorpio and cross back and circle, it's thumb forward, inner palm. Outer shoulder is inner hug. Inner hug is upper core. Inner palm is basing the floor. You're gonna cross through to the other side, thumb forward. Highly recommended when we get into cross core flow in the vinyasa module. Good. All right, so that's that. And also you get the super long side body. The shoulders are so well rotated out with the palms so well rotated in. Such a nice drop on the blade. So much flex, strong tiger core, long joint and shoulder joint, and then coming back. Whoa, look at, feel that long side body. Feel that long, rare thoracic dorsal middle rib cage spine, so elongated, so much freedom. As the ribs expand and elongate the side body, they pull away from their articulation, their joint connection to the spine, and that pulls the spine into elongation, like a traction or a supported lengthening. So nice. Yeah, and you'll see or feel how wide are the shoulder blades when they're wrapped so well around the ribs from the external shoulder blades, joints. Oh, so juicy. That's just wonderful. There's so many ways to go with butterfly mudra. You can narrow it up, you know, just like for martial arts, right? It's also this super narrow stance for the hug, harder to balance, more activation of inner upper core, side body, and it's all good. This is a big rock. It's all good. Super narrow feet. The super narrow feet or wide, but you're working at that long side. Super nice. As you like. Play with it. Experiment. Discover. Self-discovery of what's narrower, what's more hug, what's more power, you know, what's wider, more comfortable for tension or balance issues, or working leaner. Okay, look, leaner and longer is more advanced, more internal power. Wider and shorter is adapting to balance, tension, weakness, or as we're developing towards power. So wider and shorter is like it's building up to leaner and longer. That's why the master stance, you know, go from basic stance into like long, lean power stance. You know, like that very inner power type stuff. That's comes with the practice. The next part of this mudra pre-recorded presentation, the next mudra is moving back to Tiger Mudra, moving back to finger stance from the base of butterfly. So we remember, even if it's review, we have to learn how to demonstrate, present it, then later part 2, how to teach it, how to transmit it, including the cues, the language, the timing, the observation tools, body reading skills, breath count, sequencing, everything comes together. So we go part by part, so we can embody each part, take it all apart, deconstruct it, then reintegrate it, right, as a continuously flowing experience. Good. So when we come from butterfly, what we get is precision. What we get is a constant number. We get the same results. So it's science. And it's a good work. It's an effective, reliable, constant results from the same technical expression, the same experience. So when the fingers are spread out, which does turn the thumbs forward, we don't turn the thumbs forward, the fingers spread out and turn the thumbs forward. That opens the power in the hand and the wrist and all the way back to the source. Power opens up, right? The joints expand, the muscles activate, it's all good. Right, that's just basic kinetics, the movement of energy, basic physics, basic biomechanics, how the body works. Good. So when the thumbs are forwards, and I mean directly straight, like the edge of a mat, forwards, right? And then when you come onto your thumb tips, they will move 90 degrees towards center. So there again, the thumbs are towards the center, but also notice that the fingers, once spread apart, did not initially move, do not move at first. Just the thumbs move only, almost. I mean, the palm comes up, but the fingers don't slide. That's the meaning. So watch the thumb tips, watch the thumbs. Finger pads haven't moved. Good. And then next, the thumbs don't move, and the fingers grip in only towards the immovable force, the indomitable force, the base of the thumb, the inner wrist, where the weight bearing predominantly happens in the thumb. That's the base of human power. All right. So good. So once you grip in, then you're gonna hug in as usual. The external shoulder will allow the shoulder blade to drop, and the internal hugging elbow arm will activate the side rib and the chest. Beautiful. And you know, then when the shoulder blade spread with the collarbone spread, that will kind of happen naturally as the shoulder blade will wrap around the ribs and become a stable structural force from what? From squeezing the inner thigh together and flexing the spine up. The blade wraps naturally, the collarbones spread evenly, the shoulder joints extend, and you are fully active in your frontal core, full wave. So it's sit bones together, navel towards spine, pelvic floor, abdominal core, mula bandha, uddiyana bandha, upper core, bandhu bandha, the front ribs, the pecs, the pectoral girdle, the side body, the lats. It's all on. It's all good. You're a tiger. You are a lion. And you've got even your mudras on, your lion mudra, your tiger
your big cat mudra, and it's all good. That's how we get into, and then then eventually you would stand down and tiger in, full on power, or as you like, and then relax your palms down. So that's butterfly mudra, getting nice long body, getting nice inner base. Contraindications of butterfly mudra, contraindications, danger points, is the elbow can hyperextend. Hard to do an arm balance with your thumbs forward. Which takes us to the next mudra, which is hand stance mudra. Not handstanda, but hand stance, or the basic hand press. That's the stance, or the positioning, the mudra of the hands for up, down, dog, plank, handstand, full handstand, arm balance, type of things. Our index forward, and we achieve that by, well, once you come down from the finger stance, from the tiger mudra, you put your palms down. You usually naturally start to have index forward once you start developing the healthy habit of spreading your fingers every time you want to apply them to pressing something or pulling something. It's all set up from opening first, always, or releasing a grip, or increasing the grip. Everything is coming from some kind of power by opening. Okay, good. Another way to get into handstands, or common basic hand press position for all basic type of press and slide and balance movements, is to sit back, take the weight mostly off the hands, lift the palms up, spread the fingers out, and hug the elbows, arms in, and let the hands follow suit. Let them go with the flow of the arm hugging in. And then you should be able to put your hands down and have your index fingers somewhat forwards, or exactly forwards. Right? Let me get a better view. I just get off that rock. I think that's part of the mountain. And then when you sit back on the edge of the cliff, and you lift your palms, you spread your fingers, and you hug in until you feel like you're locked pretty well in. You put your hands down, you should get index fairly forward, which is a wonderful way to keep the inner base, but not, collapse. So you've got to turn out a little bit to get a lot of the inner base, but to still have the overall integrity of weight distribution throughout all of the fingers and the hand and the palms. And so that's hand stance access alignment point. And then you stand down. Whoa, right on the edge. And then you stand up. Yeah, so that's that. Okay. All right. There are not a lot of feet mudras that I teach, except the specific basics of yoga anatomy. And one of them is when the foot is standing on the floor, we lift the toes in every standing pose possible to activate the trinity of arches in the foot design, the three bridges. So you have the medial arch, that's the inner high arch, that's the primary power. The medial transverse and lateral arch, so that they get larger to smaller and they connect to create this nice structure. The lifting of the toes will create the stabilization and the alignment of the ankle, and will also activate not only the alignment and integrity of the ankle, but also to activate the high medial arch, which relates to the other arches in the pelvic floor, the arch in the spine, and the arch in the neck, and even other arches or domes throughout and diaphragms throughout the body. But that's RYT200, 500, just because we need more time to break down all the science and considerations. So once the toes are up, you're focusing on the four corners of the soles of the feet. You've got the base of the large toe. In Japanese term is called boshikyu. And then the base of the small toe in Japanese term is called soshikyu. So if I say boshikyu, you know I'm talking about here. And if I say soshikyu, you know I'm talking about here. They're just convenient one-word phrases for this base of the large toe, or mound of the foot at the base of the large toe. It's just boshikyu. all right, and soshkyu, all right, and then inner heel and outer heel. Now the structural anatomy of the masters teach inner heel connects to soshkyu like an X, and then the outer heel connects to boshkyu like an X. There's also just the four corners. Or if the calcaneus or heel bone is one thing, then it's a tripod type of bipedal movement, or walking on the feet movement from a tripod base in a way. Okay. Now in martial arts, a basic kicking mudra, like a side or a back kick, is kind of almost exactly the same and close to the back foot, particularly of Warrior 1 and Warrior 2, classical Virabhadrasana 1 and 2 poses. So, but when you're kicking to the wall or in the air or to an object, you'd flex the ankle 90 degrees, you'd extend the toes, and yet you'd flex only the large toe. Or perhaps that's reverse information. I'm sorry, you'd flex all the toes, but you'd extend the large toe, whatever that is doing, right? This inverse position. And that will make the outer bones of the foot elongate and stabilize. So that's the yang body, that's the bone body, that's the outer joint body. So that would make the outer heel very, very stable. This whole line would be very strong. First, for the heel to stride. And so it would stabilize the ankle to the shin. And that's that. Now, if you put that into a pose, for example, the back foot of Warrior 1, it's extremely similar. It's extremely similar. And it's because it's basically a kick. Right? Same with Warrior 2, it's more of a side kick. Like if you put it against the wall, it would look like that. If you put it against the floor, kicking the floor, it would look like that. Then it becomes the pose. If you turn the foot more from 90 to 45, which is to say, if you kind of turned in like that, that would be turning the pelvis from the inner thigh, and and then you can shift it into like, Warrior 1. Or you're in a lunge when the back heel comes up, right? And that would be more like when the back heel comes up, like in boxing. If the back heel came up for the forward extension, that's where lunge comes from, right? Right? These are important, very important, but relatable feet mudras that are interesting. Well, that goes into the next asana mudra, but just for now, so I don't forget later, a little footnote, if you will, pardon the pun, is the structural alignment anatomy. So if you're in a stance, your feet are comfortably apart. The 4 points of separation or alignment status would be besides feet together, which is super strict and not very stable, to be fair. But actually, when the ankles don't touch and we lift the toes, but the feet are very close together, that could be sit bone distance apart, right? Or a little wider could be like hip joint distance apart. A little wider, the third one could be like pelvic width distance apart, which, and finally double fist between the boshkyu, base of the large toes, that would be like shoulder distance apart. Very anatomical position, very comfortable. A little more narrow, a single fist distance apart. These kind of mudra references for measurement mudras, these measure mudra with one fist, because we fit our own form. So the one fist would be about hip distance apart, the top of the thigh bone, where it becomes the joint. So that's also more lean and strong and inner strength. A little wider, as we discussed earlier, is easier to balance, but less inner power, but perhaps more introduction to feeling the core, because if we're too tightened from the outer body, we can't feel inner line. So going wider is not just easier, but also takes the pressure off from the tension of the outer line. outer calf, outer thigh, outer knee, outer thigh, outer hips, and lower back, and like that. So wider helps to relax the sensation of the tension, the feeling of the pain, and allows more of the activation of the inner strength and a more awareness of the feeling of the activated inner line. So wider and shorter is a way to find your power, which will take you into a longer, leaner positioning. The other part of the measurement mudra are assist mudras, or mudras that support the mudra, or resistance type of mudras, or micro posing, like hands and feet, that, or tongue or pelvis, that support the experience of alignment, joint alignment. And alignment comes more into play with the next mudra tomorrow, but asana structuring. But for now, just a little bit fast forward, because you know by now, and you knew before, and you will know again, that everything relates. We're only separating for learning, but there is no separation, right? It's all connected all the time. So when we lift the toe, we create the alignment and stabilization of the ankle, the activation of the inner arch. If you take your peace sign mudras across your arms, just basic peace, thumbs on the small fingers, and then your peace sign. Sorry? Okay. I need more weight forward. Okay, I got it. Okay. Down. Just do mental yoga. Don't say bad words. You're on camera. Okay. That might be a little better. See how that goes. Okay, I'll just delete that part. Okay. Good. So, the wind's picking up. I'll get a little closer. So where was I? So when we do resistance mudras, lift the toes, stabilize the ankles, activate the inner arch, take your peace sign mudras, cross your arms, learn to pull up on the inner arch, and resist down by pushing through the inner arch. That will activate the inner line right up to the A-frame, like a nice Prada skirt, right up to the central core, just like an arrow in a way. So, you know, sacred geometry. So when we're pulling up or pushing down, we're activating the whole inner line, right? And then that's nice. But then we push the upper outer shin below the knee and resist, pull the legs apart, and then feel your sit bones spread and your hip joints deepen. Good job. Then you come to the inner thigh, what we're more familiar with by now with me, or before, and then squeeze the inner thigh, which will bring the sit bones and the tailbone conjoined, which will flex the lower lumbar spine and draw the navel up as the Mula Bandha makes Uddiyana Bandha. We learned in module 2 Bandha, right? So the pelvic floor activates the abdominal core in that order, like roots to fruits, like blossoming up, like nutrients from the both directions. But that's why the wave works in 2 directions: nutrients from the sun, photosynthesis, nutrients from the earth, regenesis, and then from that long flex, basically it's tiger pose, but in a stance, then and etc. We know the rest. You can inhale, expand the back ribs where the lungs reside, and it would pull you up to a tall, aligned, beautiful structure. You continue to close the front, open the back, activate the navel and the ribs, and then keep the navel there when you inhale, and expand your chest and feel so wonderful. These kind of things. The other foot mudra is when we cross the feet, you kick towards the inner heel. So you're basically your instep, your metatarsal 1, the base of large toe going up to ankle, what we call the knockout bone, or the ballet bone. That instep bone, MC1, will come up and kick the inner heel. Then you'll find the high arch, the high inner arch, and it's the center of the sole of the foot, practically, and that's the adrenal point in terms of reflexology or trigger points. So the recharge system, the depleted emergency reserves energy system is repleted or renourished or refilled or rebalanced by applying this pressure point. You kick up towards the heel, you're shifting side to side, you're feeling that strong subo, in Japanese for pressure point, you're leaning into that, and then you try the other side. Sink into it, you rock it side to side, you find the strong feeling, and you lean into it. You might even sometimes lift your knees and just lean into it even more. Whoa. Then, like any good massage, by the time you get deep into the pressure point and you feel nourished, you feel satisfied, then you would want to stretch that pressure point. So after a really good deep massage from a proper practitioner, then you would want to do yoga and stretch it out. That's why body work and yoga, you know, and maybe a swim or a steam, that would be a beauty day. That's a spa day, like proper training, detoxing, and diet, and, you know, juicing and intermittent fasting, and so on. Lifestyle chat, intermittent sharing of these types of information throughout the modules, just like philosophy, anatomy, yoga energetics, applied yoga anatomy, and various module zeros like mantra and the meditation, whatever else we can fit into these hours together, this time together, that as my integrated form of teaching will continue. And I hope that works for you. So after you take the deep massage, then you go from Seiza in Japanese dynamic meditation to Kiza, which is almost only known to monks and martial artists, even in Japan now. But Kiza is when you take your Warrior Zero, V0, Virabhadra Zero, the first warrior stance before standing, right? Is just when you come onto your feet, when you flex your toes. This is Kiza, the dynamic form of active seated ceremony or respect or dynamic meditation position in Asia. Okay, so in any case, we go from Seiza to Kiza, okay? And now we're in this dynamic stance. And what happens here, when we practice the Bandha modules and move into body Bandha or upper core, right? This Jalandhara Bandha we talked about yesterday is for breathing and for retaining the breath and for filtering and purifying as the pure chakra of the inner yoga anatomy. But the Kiza stance that we employed and the Seiza positions that we used fall into this Mudra category. So when we go into Kiza after the deep Seiza massage, right, and then we stretch out that to sustain that detox or that regeneration of energy, opening of the gates of energy, of the flow, the meridians, or the sin lines, or the nadis, or the energetic nerves, right? And this is good. So what we do is we create a little space between the base of the large toes, and we draw the seat muscles back, pardon me, so that the sit bones, the ischial tuberosities, will rest on the calcaneus heel bones. Then, when you squeeze your thighs together with resistance, another mudra, another supportive adjustment mudra. Spread for power, right? Press inner thigh, squeeze in, and feel your sit bones and heels that are conjoined, respectively, from on the either side, draw slightly together, right? And yet that little space between the base of the large toe kept the bones from pressing together, which would strain the nerve endings and create pain and distraction. So you don't want that, right? So that's what that is. And that's that stance. It goes into other kinds of stances, even, you know, these kind of press up stances where you'd be like pressing up, squeezing the heels together, which is what keeps the heels up. And later we'll go into, you know, how these type of ancient original Pashupati, the prototypes of Shiva, the original star, time traveler yogis, that potentially, perhaps, according to the Vedas, the ancient science scriptures of yoga on earth that we have uncovered so far, that are, like many ancient scriptures, are either parable, fantasy, or history. The starships come and there's great battles with fire in the sky, and then the survivors stay and bring these technologies of pyramids and yoga and so on. These are other
historical, potential historical or philosophical or folkloric, interesting at least information that comes out of these ancient Vedic science teachings. So those are important mudras. The other mudras that are interesting are the basic Maha Mudra flow. When we did the backhand press, we did the inverted palm, we did the butterfly, the setup for the finger stand or just finger stand. We did the waves to clear the energy, to release tension and toxins from the nerves and the muscle tissues in the wrists, and you have the joints fluid be, stay juicy and lubricated. And that to do with diet, also healthy fat and lots of liquids and enzymes and so on. Healthy live food or fermented foods, right? Like miso and shoyu and whatever else your culture, sauerkraut produces. So the support mudras, it's like the mudra's mudra in a way. So when we invert the palm, that's all good. And then when we come onto the backhand press, this is nice. But here, there's not a lot of it to do here. If you have a hard time shifting to the base of the thumb, it might give a little help to take your thumb over your thumb from the back and put a little weight there. But I don't know if that helps you or not. That's not a main one I use. The one I use more is when people come onto the backs of their hand and they start to press down. The idea is that you're trying to shift the weight into the base of the thumb. When the fingers are spread, this is bone therapy, this is wrist joint therapy, this is yang outer bone joint body. So one thing you can do is palm strike at the base of the thumb. Bear in mind that you are not pushing on the thumb. You're pushing on the base of the thumb in the palm. Don't slip off onto the thumb and strain the tendons in the thumb. You're just staying on the palm. So it's like 90 degrees, pushing down the palm to base the thumb very well. So that's an assist mudra, the mudra's mudra. So when you're on the back of the hand, your thumb forward, you can press down the thenar eminence, our articulation ability, primate ability, and then primary point of separation from other mammals. And then we shift into the inner wrist. Yes, the thumb is under there. No, I'm not pushing on the thumb digits. I'm in the palm. It's just the thumb happens to be there, but the pressure is on the palm, not on the thumb. Okay, good. And then so you're just pinning that inner wrist down. The thumb is there but not being pressed on. It's wonderful. It's so supportive. It's a really nice thing to have or share. So then from there, as usual, we do the old 1, 2, 3 pectoral girdle, shoulder power, shoulder structural alignment. So we hug in one, a little bit. If you feel any strain, just back off. Make sure the nerves are okay, and then you go a little softer by backing up a little bit. You can flex your toes. You lean into that, get a little hug, drop the shoulder, and then squeeze inside, shifting to the inner knee bone, from squeezing the inner thigh, right, and flexing up as the tail drops, joining the sit bone. The shoulder joints get long. You get your long tiger, your strong tiger body, long spine, flexion, and the deep, strong frontal core. We'll pause there for a moment. Okay, I'll just edit that part out. I had a little bio break. Ah. Isn't that right, Bozi? Little Obosa, little monk from Koyasan, the ancient Holy Land in Japan, where Taoism, Chinese Tantric Buddhism was brought to Japan and became Shingon, and fun Buddhist history that all rooted out of yoga, right? Okay, so that was that, and that's wonderful. And then I didn't bring out here today, but I will show, if this is only pre-recorded content as a preview, as a preview of RYT200 to prepare people for RYT300 preparatory program, then this is what we're going to work with. If you're in the RYT200 live course, then we, during the live session, we will use the tennis balls and the golf balls, catching up a little bit of Bondo play and also for Mudra activity. But for now, it gives us the opportunity to practice the Mudra's Mudra. So support Mudras. So if tiger stance is, this finger stance is really wonderful if you have a tennis ball or some similar sized ball, and just goes right into the palm, and it's so great to get strong, and then you can stand into dog and plank and even handstand and go as deep as you want to go, or just gripping the ball, which supports the palm and creates hug strength, because grip is hug. Thumb activates hug. Inner line of muscle activates hug, activates upper core. Every time we grip, we're pulling for more. It's all good. Just know that. So Tiger Mudra is upper core activation from the grip that makes the hug. When we relax our outer muscles or detox the tension out of our outer mobilizers enough, only then can the inner hug, the grip create the inner hug. It's the same, the body's a mirror. When we go into asana, next module 4, then we'll talk about that a little bit more. But in the same way, if you're looking for a wave, just a little point of reference, if you're really tight in your outer line, your mobilizer muscles, the ones that do the short flexing and extending, but not long sustainable stabilizing, or you're in continuous contractive state, whether your bottom and your back are a little bit always on alert, then you're going to be in a little bit of pain or world of pain. Then when you squeeze, you hug your inner arms to activate the upper core. When you hug your inner legs to activate the lower core, you don't feel the weight because you're too tight. That's in the outer body or the back body. That's why we have to relax the back chain of the body and move the pelvis side to side. Little segue, side point here. Then when we squeeze the inner thighs, we'll feel the flex, we'll feel the core. It's the same thing when we grip, very similar. When we grip the Tiger Mudra, it will activate the hug and then set up the whole chain of command, which will create the cycle of therapeutic movement or organic flow or aligned motion. Okay, so for now, we have ourselves here in nature, or wherever we find ourselves. If we don't have a tennis ball, you can use a river rock. I first learned from Mighty Mouse, the nickname for one of the original Ashtanga women who I adore, from Canada. Or you can use your fist, because we fit our form, we fit ourselves, remember. So if you take a knocking mudra, not a real striking mudra, or different variations of striking mudra, this is a knock mudra. If you're going to knock on a door, I guess you could hold your thumb and knock, but I don't know if that would be comfortable. Usually what people do is they put their thumb to the side and knock, right? Knock, knock. So knock, knock mudra. That also makes a flat palm fist, which we use in various places as props on the floor. In this instance, with the thumb to the side, we call this a knocking mudra, and it holds the floor flat, right? Then, as we fit our form, we fit ourselves, you should be able to put your palm right on the primary striking knuckles, put right on top there, and use it as a prop, like a tennis ball. Perhaps not as comfortable, but it works. So you'd put the fist in the center of your space between equilateral, a triangle between your triangulation or center mat. So when you held on, you could center yourself up and potentially stand down like a dog. So you put your spread out, you put your hand on top of there, you grip in, you've got a lot of support there. It also gives you a little hug, little drop, squeeze the inner thigh, flex up, right? You've got this nice position. You get that strong front body, that long shoulder, and you could stand down and learn how to get strong forward and long shoulder back, strong chest front, inhale long back, exhale strong front. Beautiful. So that's another Mudra's mudra or assist mudra. Oh, lots of dark clouds coming in now. Okay, continuing on. See, where can we go from here? So let's do a quick review for the Maha Mudra flow. Not to be confused with my term of Maha Mudra or the Mudra, the great Mudra, Maha great, supreme Mudra of the tongue going to the roof of the mouth as if sucking on a hard candy or a cough drop or lozenge. And I neglected to mention in previous chats that I wanted to mention that it's the primary nurturing mudra as well. That's what makes it the supreme mudra, because right when we searching for nutrients from the mama's milk, our earliest memories in an oxygenated ozone planet, when we come out of the mother into the breathing world, then we're, suckling action also moves the tongue to the roof of the mouth. What a more primordial, little son, nurturing force, that driving force from the pineal pituitary survival into thriving, sustainable, healthy, lovely life. So again, the tongue to roof of the mouth, that was from module 2. Bandha into mudra. So today is module 3 mudra. So this makes sense to review it here. Thank you. So when the tongue goes up, that's Maha Mudra, and we're breathing through the nose. So when we did mantra with prana, module 1, the bonus module 0, level 0, we said oh, hand signs. So when the M takes higher frequency to in, right? When the bumblebee gets the pollen from the flower and cross-pollinates and produces honey, and it's, the in is a higher frequency, and the in lifts the tongue, and it creates the Ujjayi pranayama because the mudra of the tongue activates the bandha of the throat. This bandha is not going to give you don't want to do push-ups with your neck. So this bandha is for breathing and retaining and purifying the breath. The body bandha, as I call it, the upper core, is going to be coming from the pectoral girdle, definitely. But when the tongue goes to the roof of the mouth and breathing through the nose, right? And so then activating the throat, controlling the prana. That's Maha Mudra for me. Okay. But Maha Mudra flow, or as a vinyasa sequence, is this. Let's review the sequence so we make sure that we have a chance to study and memorize, because right now we're in memory zone. We're in the memory state. We're just practicing memory, because if we can remember it, we can repeat it. So then we can practice it and master it. And then as we embody it, then we can transmit it. Remember until we forget. Until it's just, it's part second nature, right? First nature, the existence. Second nature, natural flow, right? Good. So Maha Mudra flow, we turn the hands back, back, forward, forward, back, back, forward. Clearly back is the stretch, so backhand press. This is forearm muscle, inner line of muscle. Feel the storehouse of tension in the forearms. Right, forward, forward, back, back. Building the heat. Sorry, spider. I have nothing against you. and then holding one side, bending, dropping. Keep the bicep flexed to protect the extension of the elbow. You know, bend it a little bit. Work the bicep. Resist, and when you flex, it will extend. You just don't want it to hyperextend, right? Good. So it's in a straight line, if possible. Okay, good. And then we try the other side and bend a little. Keep resisting, and then squeeze inner thigh, flex spine, extend shoulder, but not hyperextend elbow. Good job. And then come forward. And then if it, for any reason, if it does help you to come very forward, because it decreases the stretch, to move forward, you have to walk up, and then perhaps you could go to the base of the thumb, and put a little weight there. That might be nice. When you bend your elbow, don't uproot the palm, okay? So that's that, right? Just keeping the inner palm base and shifting forward to decrease the stretch. Bend the elbow a little in that with that slack, and flex, not hyperextend. And good stuff, okay? You feel it, find it, and sustain it. So that's that review, because it's a lot of small points that we have to download. So we download again. So we bend a little, we come in, we press into the inner palm. We slack, we bend, we flex, we extend, and keep a little limitation there. Beautiful. Then we move on to the backs of the hands. Pulling, spreading out, middle fingers point towards one another. Pulling apart till the bones stop, and continuously pulling apart while we hug in. Two directions, opposing force. Yes, counter support. Wonderful. Feel the spread blades. Feel the wide collarbones. Know why you do it. Feel the shoulder blades drop. Right? And then if you adjust your positioning and feel comfortable to flex, then you get the super spread rhomboids deep of the trapezius, the muscles between the rib, the shoulder blades, above the ribs. Oh. Making space for the upper spine. And that's all good, right? Okay. Then at that point, you probably get out and release your wrists a little bit like that, right? And then you'd come in from the backhand press, then you grip into power, right? But you can take the butterfly mudra to come into your finger stance, your tiger mudra power. Okay, so you get that strong power. So once you're on the backs of the hands, you want to release the toxins and tension from the wrist. And then when you butterfly forward into your palm, this kind of power, then you're going to grip the power, and that gives you the hug, and you drop. And then you have the super power, okay? So I was just showing off a little bit because the grandpa stopped there like, what's this guy doing, right? So when the thumbs go forward, you're pressing out, right? They're like, what is this guy, this old foreigner? I'm like the first foreigner in 300 years in this little ancient deep mountain village. They kind of joke that I'm their god, their warrior scholar god. They have a statue of that I found on the mountaintop they don't go to anymore. And he comes from the ancient Indian god whose name has slipped my mind, sadly. But I just embrace him as the mountain god, the Yama no Kami-sama. And the story is that from ancient India, that the god comes, this warrior comes from a far off land to protect the people. Now 300 years ago, this was a samurai village. My stone wall around my house is 300 years old. My house is over 100 years old. Anyway, they joke about that, but who knows? I'm the first foreigner ever to move here, so they're always saying, what's this crazy guy? They thought they'd taken bets that I wouldn't survive the first winter. It's, you know, you get snowed in like an igloo here. It's harsh. You gotta be tough. But we're in year 3, and so they're like, I guess he's here to stay. So the thumbs are forward in your butterfly. Then you come onto your thumb tips. You move 90 degrees onto your thumb tips. Once that thumb is based, towards the center, then the fingers grip in, right? You get that grip power. And then once you have that grip, then you hug in. Then the shoulders rotate out. But you still have the inner wrist, believe it or not. Even though everything's rotating out, you still have inner wrist. It's a base. Beautiful. So that puts the inner wrist, or the hand base, puts a limit on the external rotation of the shoulder joint in a way. And if the elbows bend in, that's even nicer, because you want to keep not hyperextend the elbows. So bending is always good. Also makes you stronger, right? Just like an arm balance. And then the shoulder blade drops. And then and then from there, right, and then you squeeze inside, right, and then you flex up, and you get that nice wrap and extension, and that's super good. And you feel the hollow navel. That's what you're looking for. That's why we don't eat before we practice. Try, if possible, to eat it. Have a few hours of digestion, at least an hour. That's minimum. That's not great, but try to be empty. Find an empty space in your schedule. Feel that hollow core. Beautiful. Let it fill up with energy, right? Not fat. With lean sinew. That's what happens. We're leaning out in a good way. Okay, that's that. That's finger stance. That's Tiger Mudra. And then, whatever. Then we come down, we put the palms down, the index goes forwards as the predominant hand stance or hand position of most flow, including up, down, dog, plank, arm balances, handstands. Index forward. Once again, an easy way to get in there is just flex toes, sit back, take the pressure mostly off of the wrist, lift the hands, spread the fingers, hug in, and let the index turn fairly forward, if not exactly forwards, and then feel how that supports you as you move into arm balances and move into power and stuff like that. Okay, so that's handstands. Okay, wonderful. We're just pushing into 60 minutes. We have plenty of more time. So I'm just gonna pause for a moment here. And perhaps just for fun, let's do a cross-core flow. We're fast forwarding to Module 5 Vinyasa after the next Module 4 Asana, which is sustainable body structure, and then, healthy movement, connecting each of the structures together. The asanas are connected by Vinyasa, which takes us into sequencing and choreography in part 2 a little more, as we learn to teach a class or a group or a private lesson or an online lesson, or for our own practice, self-practice. But just to show one more time, the application of Butterfly Mudra for me primarily is on a one-hand press, because that's going to protect you. If you're like even handstands Mudra with the index forward, let alone middle finger forward, which tends to collapse people out even though it's neutral. I understand that, but people tend to collapse out because of the density of the strength and the intensity of the movement. It's all part of it. So when we butterfly, we get lots and lots of base, especially in a one-handed press. Okay, so let's do cross-core flow. We'll do cross-core 1, 2, and this level 2 module 5 Vinyasa level 2 training. Then we would do a lot of sequencing. That's the juice. And more in RYT200, because advanced teachers need a series of sequences they can play with and interlink to continually be creative and juicy and innovative with flow sequences, right? As teachers, and then we have themes, and we slowly develop our own style of, what we like to teach and our signature poses that we enjoy practicing. Because you teach what you love, you teach what you need, right? I need this today, and so I'm going to teach that because I get something out of it It's not just a living, but a lifestyle, right? So let's say we're in butterfly pose. Got the thumb forward, we're standing down, opening Scorpio, cross back and down, we drop to the side body, we're still in the side plank, like a cross leg Vashisthana, right? We're in like an Avashisthana, right? But we're in the cross leg stance. You've got inner thigh power, right? And you've got the thumb somewhat forward, then you come down to the opposite thumb forward, cross through, right, whatever you're gonna do, all that kind of stuff, and you slide out, and then that you've got that inner base, you've got that inner hug, you've got that not hyperextended elbow. You're very conscious all the time, and you're working so nice, and these kind of gorgeous motions. You've got so much inner hug, so much inner base, so much grace of flow from the strong base of force. Base supports grace. The base of just the core in the palm, right? The base, the force of base allows the flow of grace, right? The force of the base provides the flow of the grace, all right? The upper bandha is happening from the mudra. The mudra works the bandha, which creates the asana, or the alignment, or the structure, the applied yoga anatomy, right? So that's so nice. You've got the thumb forward, you've got the hug, you've got the sweep, you know, you've got a lot of inner power, super good. You've got all that power, and you just, you know, so good. So then when you come back, you're already in the power, although everything has a limit. Right, see, like, oh, a little bit of a limit there. Right, okay. See, let that energy go. Yeah. Right, so let's try the other side. Turn the thumb forward. Right, just, right? Just turn that thumb forward, you got that base, right? And you ground that base. Open the grace. Cross. You can't see me, but I'm crossing, my legs are straight, squeezing my thighs together, which drops the tail, just like any wave. So this is a cross leg spiral side body wave. That would be more RYT200 breakdown, but it doesn't matter. Just squeeze your inner thigh with your bottom and your back to relax. Your inner thighs locked together from the scissor, and that would actually side wave you forward a whole nother level. And you'd be doing so nice. You've got that inner base, doing so good. You take it down, come across, right? You ground your back inner heel, right? And you do whatever you're gonna do, you know, whatever you want to do. But then eventually you take it out, right? And you got that inner hug, you sweep it out so good. But you keep that inner line of force, right? You always constantly have that inner power. So you're opening to grace, but you're returning to the base of power, right? You know, like that, and down. And you're so good. So this is a flow demonstration and a preview of cross-core flow. A lot of us already know, but there's a lot to break down, including self-assist mudras. That would be more advanced level. But since we're here, and then just in case this is pre-recorded, preparatory training exclusive, then now would be the chance for us to catch up on that point. So just for now, it might be a little early, but let me show you the self-assist mudras of cross-core 1 and 2 poses that we just did. This is the cross-core flow, the first part of it, the base part of it. Then it elaborates into wild thing type of drop backs and full back, one-handed back squat, back bends, Urdhva Dhanurasana, Ekahasta Urdhva Dhanurasana, one-handed upward bow, back bends poses. That's later. But for now, if you are doing cross core 1, which is the drop back, but
with straight legs and inner thighs squeezing together to get that side body spiral wave into a side plank, Bashista, right? So if you're in your butterfly mudra, thumbs forward from spread fingers, right? And you open up, and then you don't drop back. You don't do the classical everybody opening to graze so early without they don't have any base. That is why we're doing the straight leg. So I straighten my leg, I squeeze my thighs together, total side body, total side plank. I'm totally doing side plank. Okay, and Bashista, just I scissored it, and then we squeeze the thighs together, it would actually pull you forward. So if you're taking it like a dog, and you cross your thighs straight, you're doing a side plank, you're pushing it back like a dog. If you relax your bottom and your back, and you squeeze your inner thigh, and you're gonna side body wave right up to the heart bone. You're just sideways in a cross leg stance. It's the same spinal wave. In any case, and then I'm gonna skip that assist because I just reminded myself that assist requires two people. It's a straddle, and you get the pelvis, and there's a lot going. You can get the shoulder, the head of the arm, and the pelvis, and support their back rib, and you can even spin their front. You know, there's a lot going on with that assist. It's such a juicer. It's not as fancy as it might have sounded. It's quite intuitive. But for now, the self-assist is cross core 2. Pardon me, let's move forward. So when you come back from cross core 1, you come 180. So you go from the outer heel of the standing foot to the inner heel of the same standing foot. That's 180, full opposite, gyaku, other way. And then you kick it out, cross core 2. Now I'm gonna break down that mudra assist because it's important. Because a lot of people extend the ankle and destabilize the knee and the ankle and the hip, and they don't understand when they step through, you can't just put your foot anywhere. So to protect yourself and teach people how to protect themselves, you show them the first self-assist of the mudra technology, which is the hand-to-foot mudra. So when you reach over the toe and pull, just like you're doing a stretch like this, just like you're pulling like that, right over the top, like pulling back from the boshku to the sosku, the base of the toes, the mound of the foot. So when let's say you're standing, but I'm just giving you the breakdown. You would reach down and show them to pull the toes back to flex the ankle. That's the first one. Which hand could do that in this pose? Let me back up. Say go off the cliff here. This hand, because this is the free hand. This is the base butterfly mudra hand, right? So I'll take that off screen for a second. You know what that is. And then this just step through. The back foot is like Warrior 2, 90 degrees, inner heel, right? And then you'd say, hey, this free hand that's circling would reach down and flex back. And you resist against that and push, and activate this deep stretch all the way up the outer line, the mobilizer outer sheath, the calf up through the outer thigh in the deep seat. That would be happening there. That's wonderful. Then you reach to the inner palm of the foot. I know it's a little bright right now, but you get the idea. The inner arch, the medial arch, the inner bridge, the primary lift, and then you'd resist that if you want to use your peace sign. Pulling mudra, or just your hook mudra is strong if you close your thumb in like that. And then you grip your fingers, you get very strong. Whatever you're gonna do, you decide. Then as you pull that, the inner heel kicks, the foot kicks, and that strengthens the inner line, the inner muscle line up to the sit bone and the pelvic floor. So the pulling back of the foot will stretch the outer leg all the way, the full line of the outer leg, and resisting of the inner foot will strengthen the full inner line of the leg, okay? So the outer line goes to the hip, and the inner line goes to the sit bone. So the yang bone body, the joint body, will go up to the hip joint, and the inner yin body will go up the muscle line to the pelvic floor, to the bandha, okay? So that's what that looks like. You teach people, stretch the outer, strengthen the inner, make sure it's flexed and activated, and that's another inner kick type of mudra, okay? All right.
So that's something. That's applied mudra base technology and applied mudra self-assist technology. The first one is just reaching over the toe and pulling back. And the second one is closing your thumb and make the claw catch your foot and create resistance like that. Don't open your thumb for this one. Don't open your hand for that. That's different. That's a different kind of power. This is a closed pulling power, right? If you want to open your, if you want to do a hook mudra, a finger stance mudra, assist mudra, for example, we always want, almost always we want inner ankle, right? And outer hip. Outer hip is partially supported by inner sit bone. So when you have the pelvic plates, the iliums, right? So at the base you have the ischiotubulosities, the sit bones, and the muscles between them make the mudra and the bandha, or the small muscle and the bigger muscle. So the pee-pee poo-poo muscle, the vajroli in the front, ashwini in the back, those mudras, micro muscles, help activate the mula bandha, the perineal cortex, the pelvic floor muscle, and that stabilizes the pelvis into one unit and to the legs. But at the top it's the sacrum. So when the bandha activates, it actually, first of all, it actually creates a little more space in your sacrum. That's why the lumbar spine lengthens and it feels juicy. But also when the sit bones come together, it helps the hips to rotate slightly externally, which is great. So inner ankle, outer hip. So this assist can be really nice. Once you get the sit bones back, right? Once you get this is another form of asana alignment. This is next, if I don't remember, it's good that we're reviewing now for next module, asana module, which is to grab your innermost inner thigh, and then you spin that out until you get to the middle of the back thigh, basically. Then you sit on it and lock it in with the weight of your leg. Then your hand will turn 90 degrees backwards as you pull and catch the top of the semitendinosus and other of the quad, two of the quad hamstring muscles that connect to the sit bone, and you'll be pulling it back. So you roll it out, pull it back, get in front of the sit bone, get the sit bone way back, and then get the sit bone grounded, and that's your full length, of course on both sides. But then anyway, then you'd hook, this is the assist mudra. You'd spread out, because sometimes we close down to make pull very strong in this instance, and then sometimes we spread out and hook a little, like a claw, spread and slightly hook to make the thumb very strong when it's isolated and just the thumb's pulling. It's a different mudra technology, different mechanics. So spread and a little grip, then you get that hip flexor, the top of the thigh, then you squeeze that thigh, and then you roll it out, and the two middle fingers will probably reach the floor first, and then you squeeze the thigh, and that is a hook mudra for self-assist. You get that outer hip, and then you would counter that once you set up and kept your setup from your long sit bones, which supports long tail. So the chest rises, the spine lengthens as the hips deepen, as the sit bones just extend back. Then you've got the outer hip, activate the inner line, right? And then you've got the inner ankle, however you want to do that, your little peace sign hook or your leopard hook, and then you pull, resist that inner ankle by pressing through the inner arch, and you're hooking that outer hip, reactivate the front inner thigh, feel the stretch of the outer line, feel the strength of the inner line, feel that reciprocation, that balancing, right? Zero balancing back to neutral. So good. And what a spacious sacrum I'm getting by being aware of my bandha, my inner line of strength, my outer line of length, inner yin strong, outer yang long, inner yin strong, outer yang
long. This is body balance. This is harmony. This is power potential. This is optimization of performance or human expression, ability. Your power. These are various mudras that help us to move into asana alignment or counter spiraling. The hip and the shoulder always rotate out. Not always, but for structural, for weight bearing, for weight loading. The hip and the shoulder rotate out. The ankle and the wrist rotate in. The knee and the elbow are neutral. Everything is hugging. Everything is, shoulder blades are releasing into the rib. Pelvic plates are moving towards the center, the bandha. And the sit bones draw near from the activation of pelvic floor. And that, like the cascading waterfall of the rectus abdominis, the 6-8 pack, is like a waterfall, rippling water, literally. The washboard, underneath the fat, underneath the soft layers, we all have the same inner muscle dynamics. As we lean out, that becomes more visually evident, but it's there already. Everybody have it. And then, but you cannot go through the waterfall from the front. That will destroy you. You can't get through it. You get pummeled and just washed downstream. So you have to kind of dive down into the pool and come up through the pelvic floor, come up into the cave behind the cascade and enter from there. This is a natural metaphor of the cave behind the waterfall, the man behind the mirror, in a way. The self-reflexive residual self-image, the self-image, and how that shifts as we mature. But back to the simple natural metaphor and the yoga anatomy or applied body mechanics anatomy, physical anatomy, that you have to go on through the pool, come up behind the rectus abdominis, come up through the pelvic floor, come up into the cave, come up behind the transverse abdominis, behind the cave wall, the inner sheath, the inner workings. And through that portal, through that little opening, when you come up, go underwater, go under the waterfall force, come up into the inner pool and rise up into the inner abs, the transverse abdominis, that's the cave. And the pelvic floor is the pool that you rise through. And that's, in a way, that's how pelvic floor activates abdominal core. You can't go into the abdominal core. You can't exhale, squeeze belly, which will probably tighten your back, and not activate pelvic floor as much as it should without activating the external hypertension points or mobilizer points when we're looking for inner stabilizer activation and outer mobilizer release. The more we strengthen, the more we lengthen, but lengthen comes from, and strengthen, both come from release. So the first point is letting go of tension and detoxing. Way off track, side point, but we are at 70 minutes, which is good for me. I have 10 more minutes. Which is good because I have to honestly start my live session soon. But in any case, the point is that the pelvic floor activates abdominal core. So when you say exhale, squeeze belly, you might not be exactly on point with the accuracy of how these little mudras activate the bandhas in what sequence. It's a codex. You don't want to mess with the code because you might get mutated manifestations like DNA or RNA or a combination lock, as I said in the previous module. Or steps, or gears. You don't go from fourth gear to first gear. It wouldn't be good. You got to go through the motions and work the machine the way it's intended to perform. So in this bioenergetic machine is structural mechanical system is that you go through the cave, come up through the pool, into the cave, behind the waterfall. Pelvic floor will activate abdominal core without activating the hypertension points in the bottom and the back.
and the outer thigh, and the outer arms, the shoulders, the chest. We're looking for inner sheath, inner Maya kosha, right? We're going from Ana, which is food, Ana Maya kosha, the sheath, the container of the body, Ana Maya kosha, the food body, the physical body, towards the Prana Maya kosha, towards the energy body, and beyond, into the heart, mind, Ananda's bliss spirit body, the rainbow body, the light body, right? The Vajra body, the Dorje body, the lightning body, the wisdom body. We have a little more time. Let me try to get back on track with Mudra. As I mentioned earlier, that the urethra and the sphincter, or the pee-pee and the poo-poo muscles, in yoga, the Vajroli and the Ashwini Mudra, the micro muscles, potentially support the bandha, or of the pelvic floor. However, if you want to apply a different kind of mudra, we have yoga mudra, right? We go inside and we release. But we also have the heel mudra. So, like Jana Shirshasana A, B, C. So into the pelvic floor, into the navel, into the Mula Bandha, into the Uddiyana Bandha. These are mudras, right? This is mudras, right? A mudra is a seal. A mudra is a very firm fit, a very solid connection, or a support structure, or a micro expression, or a micro pose, like hands and feet, tongue, pelvis, palate. So the heel the calcaneus, the heel bone, is also a mudra, right? So, if you sit on the heel and the other foot just comes forward, you might need to roll up a bolster, a blanket, or blocks under your seat as you learn how to maintain that position. But that is also a mudra that supports the bandha. So, yeah, in ancient tradition, or in the yoga anatomy, you can squeeze the pee-pee and the poo-poo, but I tend not to want to contract my anal sphincter. I don't want to squeeze the poo-poo. I find that contracts my glutes too much. So a lot of the ancient traditions are not necessarily pinpoint. They're not necessarily perfect in my experience. They don't optimize. So I don't really want to squeeze my pee-pee and my poo-poo. I don't want to hear the same explanation one more time about Mula Bandha. If you just pretend like you have to go pee and you're holding it in, I'm like, really? That's not comforting, and I don't find that very accurate. Or you're sitting on a bicycle, a hard bicycle seat. I like that. That's pretty right on. I love riding a hard bicycle seat just because I get my Bandha training. That would be more real. Even Shandor Ramiti, one of the original warrior yogis, a real yogic artist, he used to train in the Swiss Alps and the mountains. He would take off the seat off of a bicycle and put a tennis ball on there. Again, using ball bandha and using mudra, and sit on that and bicycle up and down the mountains and get real bandha. I mean, that's intense, but I like that. I mean, that's smart. Or finding a river rock that has settled into the riverbed, but the water's run over it for so long that one side's flat and one side's round. It makes a perfect little cutaway of the heel, and you can sit on a river rock. That's ancient yogic technology. That relates back to Tantra. The mudras activate the Tantra. Where they lift the tongue to the roof, lift the pelvis of the floor, right? The pelvis and the palate. Oh, I'm losing the sun. It must be time for my live session. Now you see my bicycle. Now you don't. There you see a farmer in the background working the tractor. So yeah. So that's Farmer John. That's Farmer Nagano. Yeah, so that's a thing. So I would I would consider not squeezing the pee-pee poo-poo muscles and just squeezing the bandha. Am I getting the shadow? And just squeezing the bandha from the mudra, right? If I'm sitting on a tennis ball, which I'll teach in a moment on the live session, then I can do the mudra bandha prana practice. Prana bandha is, after all, vinyasa, right? And with attention, with awareness, with drishti, with vision, right? There we go. Well, that's pretty much the end of the sun. That's, at this time of year, that's nature telling me that we're pushing close to 4 o'clock, or my start time for my training presently. It's 9 a.m. for the people in Paris. So that's how it is. So I would do the practice of prana bandha mudra, right? So I'm breathing prana, I'm squeezing bandha, and I'm applying mudra props, natural props, micro posing or support body props. And so, not squeezing the pee-pee and the poo-poo, that's a whole nother bandha training that we might get into at more advanced levels. How to take stance, how to activate subtle organic fluid, inner thigh, inner line wave, to activate just the pelvic floor without squeezing the bottom is an art form, and it's a practice. And this is a great way to learn it. So let's finish with this today, which is feel the tennis ball or the rock or the heel of the foot against the muscle, the pelvic floor, the perineal cortex between the sit bones. Just relax and don't squeeze anything. You apply your mahaprana, your mahaprana, your great breath with your mahamudra, your great nurturing source force, which is pressing the tongue to the roof of the mouth to make the suckling sound, to feel nurtured and to feel connected to your higher sense. And breathe and let that lifted mudra of the tongue activate the prana bandha, if you like, jalandhara, which is pretty much for breath control, not body loading, right? Then the next level is to squeeze against the ball, rock, or heel, and try just to squeeze against that object. No bottom, no mudra, no pee-pee poo-poo. Just right there, so delicious. And I automatically, my navel moves back. I can't show you right now, but that's because I have the training. My body has muscle memory, or it has some kind of deep understanding to automatically do that. But with practice, the Uddiyana Bandha, the pelvic floor will, the Mula Bandha, the pelvic floor will naturally, intrinsically activate the Uddiyana Bandha, the belly core, right? But the next point level of this final practice today of mudra, supporting bandha through prana, through the vehicle of the breath, would be to blank page, so zen. I just want to look smart. Would be to squeeze continuously, just for a few breaths. Now you're breathing in and out and not giving up the contraction against the object. As many breaths as you can hold it. Usually, initially you lose it. You gotta, you gotta pay attention and get your drishti together, get your attention together, and stay on the contraction. I can do it forever, almost, but I have done it for a long time. I remember, however, or when I'm very tired, I will forget. Stay on it and breathing, and then over a short period of time, the longer you can maintain the continuous, constant contraction of the muscle between the sit bones against the heel, rock, or tennis ball, clearly the navel will draw back and your chest bone will rise up, and you'll be like, oh, I'm stabilized. This is awesome. And that's the practice. You're learning to do the Mahaprana, the Mahabandha. The throat is partially bandha. It's just like downward dog or meditation. We drop in. A little contraction, just like keeping the heart in mind, keep maintaining humility to understand real courage, real core, real heart, real bravery, right? Real noble life, proper posture, proper circulation, right energetic flow, and harmonic balance, right? Okay, that's actually 90 minutes, so we're well in. So after I edit, we'll still be within our 80-minute margin required for this particular program. 13 80-minute sessions to make the 18-hour or something like that required minimum recorded sessions for the current exemption approved on 100% online training in terms of the current Standard Yoga Alliance accepted norm standard. All right, so I'm going to sign off and say this has been a wonderful module 3 Mudra presentation of pre-recorded content and preparatory training material. This is Duncan Sensei in the deep forest of Kyoto, in the remote wilderness of Japan. Who could get tired of saying that wonderful truth? Namaste. A quick final note is that we are developing www.yogic Arts Academy, the YAA training program, just as a place to go where we can compile shared information and presented content for our ongoing higher education and study. Namaste. Thank you.